do we keep our knives in optimum condition? That's what we're gonna see right now. Regardless of the knife that you're using, you have to determine what are you gonna use to sharpen it. I personally use Japanese whetstones. This is a personal preference, and you can find very high quality American-made or European-made stones. The next thing you have to consider is how flat are your stones. With regular use, the stones become concave, and we have to find a way to get them completely flat again. I personally recommend the use of a level to determine how flat your stones are. I'm going to leave you an example of how I do that right here. Notice the gap between the stone and level in this example. This is my primary sharpening stone, which on one side is 1000 grit and on the other side is 6000 grit. This stone is concave, as we saw in the example earlier. Now I need to find a very flat surface to sand it or grind it down, and I recommend doing that over a glass or a very flat surface. You can use a level to determine if that surface where you are about to sand is flat. We are now ready to start sanding, and make sure that you use wet sanding paper. Just grab some water and pour it over and make sure that it also goes underneath. Start sanding now in this fashion, and just make sure that you get your stone very flat on both sides. Do one first and then move on to the second side. I am done sanding both sides of the stone. I did change from 100 to 180 sanding paper. Notice that we can barely see any gap between the stone and the level now. I do want to mention that I have seen many people recommending using two stones and rubbing them once against the other one to get them flat and level. I used to do it this way until I figured out that all I was doing was passing on the imperfections on one stone onto the other one. Therefore, I do not recommend this technique. So, as we've been saying, this is a whetstone and we have to get it submerged in water. Simply let it sit 2 or 3 minutes after it stops bubbling and is ready to use. I am ready to start sharpening my knife, and I have this small knife here that I purposely took the edge off, and I want you to see this demonstration where you can see it cannot even cut through paper. It cannot. Well, we need to start by using the coarser stone first, which in this case is a 1000 grit stone, and then move into the second stone, which in this case is a 6000 grit stone. There are many methods or techniques to sharpen a knife, and I believe that debating which one is better than the other one is a real waste of time, because when we are sharpening a knife, we are inevitably introducing the biomechanics of our bodies into the equation. For example, when people walk, some people supinate, some others pronate. The same way when we are sharpening a knife, we have different tendencies that will make it different for each and every one of us. My recommendation is for you to try all the methods out there and try to figure out which one is the one that works the best for your style. There are techniques where the knife goes back and forward pretty much at a 90-degree angle from your standing position, like this. There are others where the knife goes back and forth pretty much at a 180 degree from your standing position. And it can be, this way or the other way, but at a 100-degree angle from where you are. I personally use a technique that goes in a sweeping fashion, like you are seeing right here. These techniques all have different names like Japanese or Western, but that is really not important. What's really important is to determine at what angle you are going to be sharpening your knife. You see, knives come at different sharpening angles. Some are 10, 15, 20, 25, and even more, and you have to determine what angle is it that you have to use. Okay, if you do not use the correct angle, you may well be not even sharpening your knife at all. You may be sharpening right above the edge where you have to be sharpening instead of the right one. So determine that is important. I usually start here in the back at the heel of the blade and move towards the tip of the blade in a sweeping fashion, like I said, and I use my fingers to really support the blade while I'm doing this motion. I'm doing it very slow here so that you can see, but then I start doing this in a very in a faster fashion. I also recommend counting the strokes that you do on one side and then do the same amount of strokes on the other side. This will help you keep a consistent angle on both sides of the blade. It is also very important to keep a consistent same angle at all times. You can tell when you change the angle because the sound will also change. Another key factor is pressure. It is recommended to use 4 to 6 pounds of pressure while you are sharpening your knife. I have worked for about 5 minutes on each side of the blade using the 1000 grit stone, and now it's time to move on to the 6000 grit stone. I'm going to wet it a little bit and continue using exactly the same technique as I was doing with the 1000 grit stone. After a few minutes sharpening on the 6000 grit stone, now it's time for me to check if this knife is up to the level that I wanted. And using the tips of my fingers, I can tell that yes, it is really sharp. Well, let's see if we can cut through paper now, like we did at the beginning. I hope you learned something with this video. Remember, always make sure that your stone is flat. For that, I do not recommend using two stones or one stone to level up the other one. With that, all you're doing is passing up the imperfections of one stone onto the other stone. I do recommend using a level to check how flat is your stone, and then using sandpaper to level them down. Remember also that there are different type of knives. Some knives are flat on one face or one side. On that side, we have to put them flat on the stone and level that side flat, completely flat. This is more on like Japanese styles knives. And then on the other side is where you have the bevel, no? And that's the side where you have to have either a 10, 15 degree angle or 20 depending on the knife. So make sure that you know what type of knife you have so that you can apply the correct methods, okay? We will be seeing you on the next one. Leave your comments and questions below.